Hi, and welcome to Tech Talk with Sean. I will be discussing various technology related stuff and do a couple of tutorials on my workflows, whether it be audio related or just plain other tech stuff that I use or stuff that caught my attention. Welcome to my first vlog on YouTube. COVID 19 has locked pretty much most of us in our homes, and I've used this opportunity to figure out live streaming. It is quite easy once you get into it. So, what we're going to discuss on this is the use of OBS Studio. In this multi part tutorial, I'm going to show you how I set up OBS, that is, Open Broadcaster software, to live stream my church services on Sundays. Of course, to start with, we need some amount of software and hardware, but this is pretty much based on what you already have at home. Starting with software, you will of course require the OBS Studio software, which you can download from obsproject.com. You will have the options to download OBS for a Mac, which is what I'm using, for Windows or Linux. On a side note, I have to say that OBS has the most features in Windows. As I said earlier, I'm using it on a Mac, but in Windows it is pretty much the same with a few extra features in Windows that aren't there on the Mac. I have never used Linux, so I don't know the advantages or limitations on Linux. Another software you could use and try is vMix, but right now I can't afford that. Some other software that you are going to need are the NDI tools and OBS NDI plugin. In case you don't know what NDI is about, please look it up online. It's a fantastic and exciting bit of technology for video and audio that runs via your local area network and to a certain extent on wireless networks also. Now for some good and important bit of information that I didn't mention earlier. All the software that I have mentioned here is absolutely free for anyone to use. In fact, OBS Studio is open source software, which means anyone can download the source code and further develop on it. NDI also lets software and hardware makers develop NDI integration into their hardware and software products. For a bit of video editing, I use DaVinci Resolve, which is a really very powerful video and color grading software. It's severely overkill for what I need to do, but it's free, so why not? I would recommend iMovie or Windows Movie Maker. I'll put the links for everything in the description below. It will be useful to have an image editing software like Photoshop or GIMP. GIMP is free and open source, and Photoshop Express is the free version of Photoshop. For my slideshow, I use PPT, but if you have your slides in proper order, then you can manage with any image viewer in full screen mode. Of course, if you have live callers, you will need Skype or Zoom or Hangouts. I prefer using Skype and will touch upon why a little later. And that's pretty much all with regard to software. So moving on to hardware. For my setup, I'm actually running 3 computers. It can be done on 2 computers as well, and maybe even 1 computer. But then that 1 computer will have to be a real mean piece of kick-ass machinery like a gaming computer with at least 2 high-resolution screens. I'm talking about an i7K grade CPU with at least 16 GB RAM, 4 GB graphics card, and a couple of SSDs. Or you can have a multi-computer setup like mine, which is one, a very average machine like my MacBook Pro Retina 2015 model with an i5 CPU and 8 GB RAM and one SSD drive. Since this laptop doesn't have an Ethernet port, I use a Thunderbolt to Gigabit adapter, but any USB Gigabit adapter should work if your computer or laptop doesn't come with an existing LAN or RJ45 port. On a Mac, you may need to install a driver to get gigabit speeds. I would strongly recommend gigabit network usage, which is 1000 Gbps bandwidth. My second computer is my wife's PC laptop, which is also a very basic laptop. It's an Asus convertible touchscreen with a mobile Intel processor. It is used primarily to play back PPT slides during the service, so you don't really require a powerful machine for it. Although I do recommend a secondary monitor connected to it so that you will be able to see your projected slides on the secondary screen and also be cued in on your next slides. Unfortunately, I don't have a second monitor at home and no place on my little table for it. So I have connected my iPad to it with the USB to Lightning charging cable that comes with the iPads. I use a program and app called Duet Display. It's not a free app and it costs about $10 on iOS and 850 rupees for Android. This laptop also does not come with an Ethernet port, so I use an Amazon Basics USB 3 to gigabit converter, which costed me around 1400 rupees. Now to the third computer. It's an old 2011 MacBook Pro. Both my MacBooks are 13-inch, by the way. This third machine is used only for my callers to whom I'm connected with through Skype. This job could be offloaded to the PPT laptop as well, but I use the third computer since it's there and I don't want to stress the PPT laptop too much. Now, Skype, as I said, supports NDI and gives me individual feeds for each callers, so I don't need to worry about whose face is on the screen in my feed or selecting the right person. With NDI, Skype also gives a clean feed of only the user and not any unnecessary windows and icons, etc. More on that a little bit later. This laptop has a gigabit adapter already port built into it. As you may have now realized, I'm using three machines, basically to spread the load as much as possible. Streaming is CPU intensive, and at times my OBS system goes above 60% CPU usage and gets quite hot. And I'm running our stream at only 720p resolution, not even full HD. Now, all three machines are connected to a gigabit switch via cable. This is important as a cable connection would give you a much more stable network and better bandwidth when using wireless than using wireless. I'm sorry. NDI also works best via a wired network. My gigabit switch is connected to my broadband network modem. And that is the gist of my streaming hardware setup. Please subscribe and support the channel and hit the notification bell to get notified about part 2 of the streaming tutorial where I get into the details of using the OBS software. I suggest you try and install the needed programs and apps so that you will be able to check them out on your systems. See you in the next video. Until then, stay safe, stay at home, and cheers.